Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. Picture this. You've just survived 2 brutal years of preparation to crack into one of the world's most elite institutions. Your SATs? Crush them. Star athlete? Check. Maybe even team captain. You've hunted down a nomination from a member of Congress, a senator, or even the vice president themselves. After all that grinding, you're one of just 200 chosen from 14,000 hopefuls. You've officially made it into the United States Military Academy at West Point. You step onto campus, hug your parents goodbye in a lightning-fast 90 seconds, watch your hair hit the floor, and slip into that iconic gray and white uniform. And then, welcome to hell. They call it Beast Barracks, or just Beast if you're trying to sound tough about it. It's 7 weeks of training so intense, so relentlessly demanding, that it breaks some of the most promising young people in America. Your alarm screams at 5 a.m. You collapse at 10 p.m. In between, a non-stop gauntlet of physical training, weapons drills, formation marching, and classroom work. 0 weekends. 0 breaks. Your phone might as well be on Mars. Everything about this program is designed to hunt down your weaknesses and exploit them mercilessly. So here's the million-dollar question: who actually survives? For decades, the smartest military minds obsessed over this puzzle. They analyzed everything imaginable: SAT scores, high school transcripts, fitness levels, leadership qualities. They mashed it all together into something called the whole candidate score, their best mathematical guess at who had the raw horsepower to make it. Total failure. Turns out, cadets with sky-high scores dropped out just as often as those with mediocre ones. Talent, shockingly, meant almost nothing when it came to surviving Beast. Get this, 1 in 5 of these ultra-elite cadets, the cream of the crop, won't even make it to graduation. Many quit during that very first summer. This mystery haunted a young psychologist named Angela Duckworth. She'd ditched a fancy consulting career to teach middle school math, and every single day in her classroom, she watched the same weird pattern play out. The naturals, kids who could grasp concepts in a heartbeat, weren't always the ones acing her tests. Meanwhile, other students who struggled, who had to wrestle with every problem, were somehow leaving the prodigies in the dust. It hit her. Our potential is just the starting line. What we actually do with it, that's the whole race. We've been fed this story about success for generations. It's all about talent, natural genius, being gifted. But what if that entire story is backwards? What if the single biggest predictor of success has almost nothing to do with talent? That's the explosive question at the heart of Angela Duckworth's game-changing book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. Duckworth, who later won a MacArthur Genius Grant for this research, ironically enough, discovered that the real secret to extraordinary achievement wasn't about being the smartest person in the room. It was about something completely different, something she called grit. Today, we're diving deep into that secret. We'll discover why effort actually counts twice as much as talent, how to find and nurture your own passion, and how to build the kind of bone-deep perseverance that carries you through any storm. By the time we're done, you'll see that success isn't some genetic lottery. It's a marathon you train for, step by grueling step. And this book? It's your training manual. Let's kick things off with a simple idea that flips everything upside down. We're absolutely obsessed with talent. Think about it. You watch an incredible athletic performance or hear a jaw-dropping musical piece. What's your instant reaction? Wow, they're just so talented. She's a natural. He's a straight-up genius. We do this on autopilot. We're in love with the idea of the natural, someone who reaches greatness with seemingly zero effort. Angela Duckworth points out there's a sneaky psychological trap here. When we chalk someone's success up to innate talent, we're basically letting ourselves off the hook. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche nailed it. Our vanity, our self-love, promotes the cult of the genius. For if we think of genius as something magical, we are not obliged to compare ourselves and find ourselves lacking. Calling someone a natural is our way of saying, okay, they're playing a different game, I don't have to compete with that. But this obsession with talent does something even more damaging. It blinds us to the thousands of hours of struggle, failure, and relentless practice hiding behind every great achievement. Take novelist John Irving, the guy who wrote The World According to Garp. He's been called the great storyteller of American literature. But a natural? Not even close. He scraped a C- in high school English. His verbal SAT score was a measly 475 out of 800. Nearly two-thirds of students outscored him. He was so dyslexic that he had to read with his finger tracking each word, a habit he still has today. His teachers thought he was lazy and dumb. He was neither. He just had to work harder than everyone else in the room. If my classmates could read our history assignment in an hour, Irving explained, I allowed myself 2 or 3. To do anything really well, you have to overextend yourself. Through pure grinding effort, he taught himself to write. Rewriting, he says, is what I do best as a writer. I spend more time revising a novel or screenplay than I take to write the first draft. His struggle became his superpower. The slowness forced him into meticulous precision. The endless rewrites built a stamina most writers never develop. This story reveals the first bombshell from Duckworth's research. She breaks down achievement into 2 dead simple equations. First, talent times effort equals skill. Talent is just how fast you improve when you practice. If you pick up a guitar and nail chord progressions faster than your buddy, you've got more guitar talent. But talent alone? It's just potential sitting on the shelf. You have to pour in effort to transform that potential into actual skill. Second, skill times effort equals achievement. Once you've built a skill, you have to deploy it. You have to show up day after grinding day and put that skill to work. Achievement is what happens when you take your hard-won skills and make them productive. Catch the pattern? Effort shows up in both equations. As Angela Duckworth puts it, effort counts twice. Talent without effort is just wasted potential. Skill without effort is just what you could have done. Here's a mind-bender. Someone twice as talented as you, who puts in half the effort, might develop the same skill level. But because they skip that second dose of effort, the effort that makes skill productive, they'll ultimately achieve less than you. The world is packed with talented people who never accomplish much. And it's equally full of people who started with less talent but, through stubborn, relentless effort, reached the absolute top. So if effort is this crucial, where does it come from? It flows from grit. Duckworth defines grit using 2 components, passion and perseverance. Let's tackle passion first, because it's wildly misunderstood. Most people imagine passion as a lightning bolt moment. One day you're wandering lost. The next, bam, you found your one true calling. Hollywood loves this narrative. The young chef tastes a perfect dish and suddenly knows her destiny. The musician hears a song and realizes his life's purpose. But Duckworth's research with hundreds of high achievers tells a completely different story. For most people, passion isn't found. It's slowly, painstakingly developed. It starts with interest. This is a messy discovery phase. You can't just meditate in your room until passion strikes. You have to get out there and experiment with stuff. Rowdy Gaines, Olympic gold medalist swimmer, didn't dive straight into pools. He tried football, baseball, basketball, golf, and tennis before ever getting wet. Swimming was literally just next on his list, and he wasn't even sure about it. On tryout day, he was at the library checking out track and field books because he figured he'd get cut from swimming. This early exploration stage is more like casual dating than marriage. You're testing things out, you're playing around. You're not thinking about forever, you're just figuring out what clicks. This is why, if you're young and feel like you're interested in everything but committed to nothing, you're not broken, you're right where you should be. Psychologist Barry Schwartz compares it to finding a romantic partner. Young people often hold out for the perfect person who's gorgeous, brilliant, kind, hilarious, and empathetic. Basically a unicorn, but that's fantasy. Real relationships start when you find someone promising, then you build love and connection over years of shared experiences. Careers work the same way. Discovering an interest is just step one. Next comes the much longer development phase. This is where you actively engage with your interest. You ask questions. You hunt down experts. You find your tribe. Teachers, coaches, mentors, peers who fuel your fire. Consider Jeff Gettleman, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the New York Times. His passion isn't generic journalism. It's a deep, almost obsessive love for East Africa. But he couldn't have predicted that at 18. It started with a college summer trip. "This place just blew my mind," he said. That was the spark. But sparks aren't fires. He came home and started studying Swahili. He took a gap year to backpack around the world, circling back to East Africa. He still had no clue how to make a life there. A professor suggested journalism, an idea he initially thought was the dumbest idea ever. It sounded boring. But the idea stuck. He started shooting photos for the student paper. He went to Oxford and felt lost. Then gradually, he realized journalism could be his bridge back to Africa, a way to tell the stories of a place he loved. That's when he mapped out a plan. A very deliberate step-by-step roadmap. Step A, write for Oxford's student newspaper. Step B, land a summer internship at a small Wisconsin paper. Step C, work for the St. Petersburg Times in Florida. Step after step, until a decade later, he finally landed his dream, New York Times East Africa bureau chief. For Jeff, passion wasn't fireworks. It was a compass. Something he had to carefully construct and calibrate. Once he did, it guided him through the long, winding journey to where he wanted to be. Duckworth explains this using what she calls a goal hierarchy. Picture your goals as a pyramid. At the bottom are your low-level goals. Today's to-do list. Finish math homework. Call a friend back. Hit the gym. These are just means to an end. Above those sit your mid-level goals. Ace math class. Be a supportive friend. Stay fit. These explain the why behind your daily tasks. And at the very top is your ultimate concern, your top-level goal. This is your compass. It's what you care about so deeply that it organizes and gives meaning to almost everything else you do. It's an end in itself, not a stepping stone. For Hall of Fame pitcher Tom Seaver, his top-level goal was to pitch, quote, "the best I possibly can, day after day, year after year." This ultimate concern dictated everything else. He said, "Pitching determines what I eat when I go to bed, what I do when I'm awake." Gritty people have this kind of coherent goal hierarchy. Their daily and mid-level goals all connect to that one ultimate concern. They're not scattered. They wake up thinking about the same questions they fell asleep pondering. A lack of grit often comes from a messy, contradictory goal hierarchy. Maybe you've got a dream at the top but no supporting goals beneath it. That's just wishful thinking. Or maybe you've got a dozen mid-level goals that don't connect to any single purpose. You're busy, sure, but you're not actually getting anywhere. Warren Buffett has this brilliant three-step prioritization process. First, list your top 25 career goals. Second, circle your top 5. Third, and this is the killer part, look hard at the 20 you didn't circle. These aren't your backup priorities. These are your avoid-at-all-cost list. They're the distractions that drain your time and energy, preventing you from achieving what truly matters. So passion is about having a top-level goal you care about in a deep, enduring way. But passion is only half the equation. The other half is perseverance. This brings us back to those West Point cadets, to John Irving rewriting his novels endlessly, to Angela Duckworth in her math classroom. It's about the daily discipline of trying to do things better than yesterday. It's about practice. But just like with passion, our understanding of practice is usually wrong. We think if we just log enough hours, we'll eventually improve. Duckworth herself admits she used to believe this. She's been jogging an hour a day, several times a week, since she was 18. She's clocked thousands of hours, and she's not a single second faster than when she started. Why? Because she's not doing what psychologist Anders Ericsson calls deliberate practice. Ericsson is the world's leading expert on world experts. He's studied Olympic athletes, chess grandmasters, concert pianists, you name it. And he's discovered that the path to excellence isn't about racking up hours. It's about how you use those hours. Deliberate practice has 4 essential components. First, you set a stretch goal. You zoom in on one specific aspect of your performance you want to improve. You deliberately hunt for challenges you can't quite handle yet. You focus on your weaknesses, not just what you're already good at. Second, you practice with laser focus and maximum effort. This isn't mindless repetition. You're fully concentrated on hitting that stretch goal. This is why many elite athletes, like basketball star Kevin Durant, spend most practice time alone. It's intense, focused work. Third, you get immediate and informative feedback. You need to know right away how you did. And crucially, you need to care more about what you messed up than what you nailed, so you can fix it. This feedback might come from a coach, a teacher, or just watching video of yourself. Fourth, you repeat with reflection and refinement. You do it again, and again, and again. But each time, you reflect on the feedback and tweak your approach. You keep grinding until what once felt impossible becomes automatic. Then you set a new stretch goal and restart the cycle. This is why some people get 20 years of experience, while others get 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. They're not doing deliberate practice. Duckworth and Ericsson teamed up to study National Spelling Bee finalists. They found that the grittier kids didn't just practice more, they practiced differently. The single best predictor of success was time spent on deliberate practice. Solitary, focused work like memorizing dictionary words and reviewing personal spelling notebooks. What about other activities like reading for pleasure or playing Scrabble? Zero relationship with spelling performance. Here's the kicker. When spellers rated how these activities felt, they described reading and games as effortless and as enjoyable as eating your favorite food. Deliberate practice? Significantly more effortful and significantly less enjoyable. This creates a paradox. How can you sustain something so hard and often unpleasant for the thousands of hours mastery requires? This is where deliberate practice and flow seem to clash. Flow, that state psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi describes, is being in the zone, where you're so absorbed that time disappears. It feels effortless, spontaneous, joyful. So which is it? Painful grind or ecstatic journey? Duckworth's research suggests it's both. Deliberate practice is for preparation. Flow is for performance. You don't experience them simultaneously. Deliberate practice is how you build skills. You're in problem-solving mode, focused on weaknesses. It's hard. Flow happens when you deploy those hard-won skills. You're performing at peak ability, where challenge perfectly matches skill. You're not analyzing. You're just doing. It feels effortless because you've already invested all the effort. Swimmer Rowdy Gaines logged at least 20,000 miles in the 8 years before his Olympic gold. "I'm not going to lie," he admitted. "I never really enjoyed going to practice. I hated practice." So why did he do it? It's very simple. It's because I loved swimming. I had a passion for competing, for the result of training, for the feeling of being in shape, for winning. The hard, often miserable work of deliberate practice is what earns you those moments of effortless, joyful flow in performance. But perseverance isn't just about practice. It's also about what happens when you faceplant, when you get knocked flat. This brings us to the final psychological asset of gritty people: hope. This isn't wishful thinking about a better tomorrow. This is the kind of hope that says, "I resolve to make tomorrow better." It's believing your own efforts can improve your future. It's the essence of falling down 7 times and getting up 8. This kind of hope springs from your mindset. Decades ago, psychologist Marty Seligman ran a now-famous experiment with dogs. Dogs subjected to uncontrollable electric shocks eventually just gave up, even when later placed in situations where they could escape. They'd learned to be helpless. But what fascinated Seligman was the flip side. Some dogs never quit. Despite the trauma, they kept trying. This led to a breakthrough about people. It's not suffering that creates hopelessness. It's suffering you believe you can't control. Optimistic people explain setbacks differently than pessimists. A pessimist sees failure as permanent. "This will never change." Pervasive. "This ruins everything." And personal. "It's all my fault." This makes quitting seem logical. An optimist sees failure as temporary. "This is just a rough patch." Specific. "This is one area of my life." And circumstantial. "I mismanaged my time on this project." This motivates finding solutions. But where do these explanations come from? Enter Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's work. She discovered we all hold deep beliefs about ability and talent. She calls these mindsets. With a fixed mindset, you believe intelligence and talents are unchangeable traits. You've got a certain amount, and that's it. When you hit a setback, a fixed mindset says you're not smart or talented enough. It's a verdict on who you are. With a growth mindset, you believe abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. You can get smarter, more talented, better at things through effort. When you hit a setback, a growth mindset says it's a learning opportunity. It's a signal to try harder or try differently. Duckworth's research shows a powerful chain reaction. Growth mindset leads to optimistic self-talk, which leads to perseverance through adversity. The good news? Mindsets can change. You can learn to adopt a growth mindset. One of the best ways is simply learning about the brain. When you understand your brain is like a muscle, that it strengthens with use, grows new connections, that you can literally get smarter, it transforms how you view challenges. So we've got the 4 psychological assets of gritty people: interest, practice, purpose, and hope. Interest launches your passion. Purpose matures it. Practice is the core of perseverance. Hope sustains you through everything. These are things you can cultivate from the inside out. But there's another incredibly powerful way to grow grit: from the outside in. If you want to be grittier, find a gritty culture and immerse yourself in it. Think back to the swimmers Dan Chambliss studied. He expected to find a special breed of person who could wake at 4 a.m. daily. Instead, he discovered that when you're somewhere everyone wakes at 4 a.m., it just becomes what you do. No big deal. It becomes normal. The people surrounding us profoundly shape who we become. The drive to fit in, to match our group's norms, is one of the most powerful forces in human nature. Over time, the culture you belong to shapes your identity. When facing tough choices, you don't always run cost-benefit analyses. Often you simply ask, "Who am I, and what would someone like me do here?" If you're a Seattle Seahawk under Pete Carroll, you always compete. It's your identity. If you're Finnish, you have sisu, that inner strength, that gut-level perseverance. It's who you are. If you're a West Point cadet, you're part of the long gray line. You don't quit. This is why parenting and mentoring matter so much. When Duckworth interviewed paragons of grit, she noticed a clear pattern in their upbringing. Their parents were what psychologists call wise parents. They were both supportive and demanding. They offered unconditional love, warmth, and respect. But they also held incredibly high standards. They set limits. They taught their kids that you finish what you start. They weren't authoritarian, "Do it because I said so." They weren't permissive, "Do whatever you want." They blended toughness with love. Steve Young, Hall of Fame quarterback, tells a story about his first semester at Brigham Young University. He was eighth-string quarterback, basically a tackling dummy for the defense. Miserable, he wanted to come home. He called his dad, who told him, "You can quit, but you can't come home because I'm not going to live with a quitter." Sounds harsh, right? But Steve says it was an act of love. His dad knew him. He knew letting him come home would mean letting him surrender to fear. He was demanding, but it came from deep, selfless support. "I knew," Steve said. "It wasn't about him and what he needed. It truly was, I'm giving you all I got." This combination of support and high standards isn't just for parents. It's for teachers, coaches, and leaders too. In the end, Angela Duckworth's discovery is that grit isn't something you either have or don't. It's something you can grow. It's a learnable set of skills and ways of thinking. It starts with discovering that what we accomplish in life's marathon depends far more on our passion and perseverance than on our innate talent. After this deep dive into grit science, what's the most powerful takeaway? For me, it's the profound sense of empowerment this book delivers. For too long, we've been trapped thinking about success in terms of fixed, unchangeable qualities. You're either a math person or you're not. You're creative or you're not. You have talent or you don't. This thinking is a dead end. It gives us an excuse to quit when things get tough and to envy others' success without understanding their journey. Grit destroys that myth. It tells us the power to achieve long-term goals isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's a quality anyone can cultivate, a muscle anyone can strengthen. This idea hands the keys back to us. It says our future isn't encoded in our DNA, but shaped by the habits we build, the mindsets we adopt, and the cultures we choose. This isn't naive "you can be anything" positivity. It's a more realistic and, frankly, more inspiring message. With passion and perseverance, you can become so much more than you are today. So how can you start building your own grit right now? Here are some practical actions. First, adopt the hard thing rule in your life. This is a rule Angela Duckworth uses with her own family, and it's brilliant. 3 parts. 1. Everyone does a hard thing, something requiring daily deliberate practice. 2. You can quit, but not mid-season or after one bad day. You finish what you commit to for that period. 3. You pick your own hard thing. This simple framework builds perseverance while honoring your interests. Pick something challenging. Learning an instrument, mastering a language, training for a race, and commit for a set period. Second, find your purpose. Think about your work, schoolwork, a job, a personal project. Ask yourself, am I just laying bricks, building a church, or building the house of God? That parable is about finding purpose behind what you do, connecting daily efforts to something bigger than yourself, something helping others. Spend a few minutes this week reflecting on how what you do, even in small ways, contributes to others' well-being. This sense of purpose fuels long-term passion. Third, embrace deliberate practice for just 15 minutes daily. You don't need to commit to 10,000 hours immediately. Pick one small skill to improve. Writing clear sentences, shooting basketballs, playing one bar of music perfectly. For 15 minutes, give it full concentration. Set a stretch goal just beyond your current ability. Pay attention to mistakes and think about corrections. This small habit not only improves skills, but changes your relationship with challenge. You'll start seeing that frustration of not good enough yet is actually the feeling of getting better. We've covered grit's core principles today, but honestly, a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It shows major landmarks and routes, but it can never replace actually walking the trails, meeting people, breathing the air. This book's real magic is in the stories, details, and quiet moments of reflection it sparks. This summary helps you decide if this journey is worth taking. If anything we've discussed today resonated with you, grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning new ideas. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see your potential and your path to achieving it. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It shows us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.